Do I have your attention? 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 Do I have your attention?
Is you taking notes?
Alrighty guys, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to work on getting our chicken breast nice and prepped. So there's two different ways that you can approach this. I'm going to talk to you about the way that I like to do it, and then I will tell you the alternate way. So what I'm doing is I am butterflying my chicken breast, and the reason why I like to do that is just because I feel like you don't have to worry about trying to beat out the meat for so long. I know that sounds disgusting. Get your head out of the gutter. If you have a meat tenderizer, or if you're using a rolling pin, I just personally feel like if you keep the chicken breast whole, put the saran wrap over it, and then tenderize it out that way, I just feel like you have to do it 10 times longer rather than doing it the way I'm doing it, where you're butterflying it, halfway through, not cutting it fully through, but just enough so that it stays whole. And then you'll be able to put the saran wrap over it, and you'll be able to get it nice and wide. And then you don't have to worry about tenderizing it for as long. You know what I mean? Now, if you are worried that you're going to cut it all the way through the opposite side, or, if you don't have the best knives, you do not have to do it the way I'm doing. You can do, like I said, you can just take the whole chicken breast whole, put some saran wrap over it, and then use your meat tenderizer or a rolling pin or, something heavy. Some people use cast iron skillets, just something so that you can get the chicken breast nice and flat. Now, for this particular recipe, I'm only going to use 3 of them, and that's because I feel like if you're going to go through the trouble of making a chicken cordon bleu, I like to actually slice mine and serve them already sliced, because you want the presentation to be shown. You want them to see the ham. You want them to see all of that beautiful cheese oozing out of the chicken breast. So that's the reason why I'm only doing 3, because honestly, once you're done slicing it, I feel like 1 chicken breast could actually feed 2 people. So just think of it that way. So now that we've gotten our chicken breast nice and cleaned, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get yourself some saran wrap, or honestly aluminum foil, whatever you have on hand, and you're gonna cover it over. And then, like I said, you can either use a meat tenderizer, a cast iron skillet, like I'm using my rolling pin, and all I'm doing right now is I'm kind of just beating it out so that it kind of thins out the fillet. Now, be mindful when you're doing this to not go too crazy. First things first, you want to make sure that you're doing it pretty evenly so that it's not really thick on one side and paper thin on the other side. The other thing that you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on is make sure that you're not smashing it out too paper thin. You definitely want to make sure that there's still a slight bit of thickness to it, because when you go to roll it, if it's too thin, it'll completely just shred apart. And of course, if it's too thick, well, then it's going to take even longer to cook, and then it might dry out. So you want to be mindful of that. So the first layer of this is adding some gray poupon. Now, if you're not a fan of that, another fabulous alternate, you guys, is using a honey mustard. You can use whatever type of honey mustard brand you like. That's completely up to you. So what I'm doing right now is just making sure that these are nicely coated. If you've never had gray poupon, it does have a little bit of a kick to it. It's definitely not spicy at all, so don't stress yourself out about that. But if you've never worked with it before, I would say err on the lighter side of using it, just in case you aren't too keen on it. But you really want to make sure that they're nice and coated, because that's going to add a lot of flavor to these chicken breasts in the end. And then, of course, you're going to add your ham. Now, I would suggest for you guys to use like a Black Forest ham, or, something like that. Something that has a really nice high fat level to it. Like, you want to see those little white marble lines in the ham, because that's going to have a lot of good flavor to it. Now, the cheeses that I'm going to add, typically people use Swiss. I hate Swiss. So what I'm adding is smoked Gouda, and then I'm also adding in Munster. And you can use as much or as little as you would like. I would not use the shredded cheese just because it'll just become a mess. The only seasoning I'm adding on it right now is just black pepper. Just keep that in mind. But once again, I would kind of stay clear of the shredded cheese because it'll just fall out the sides and you don't want that. So right now I'm going to show you guys a little trick to help you prevent your chicken cordon bleu from falling apart. So what I'm doing right now is I literally just rolled it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it in my saran wrap and make sure that it's nice and tight, you guys. This is a step that you do not want to skip because I promise you, it'll make your life so much easier when it comes down time to cooking it. So you're going to take both sides of the saran wrap, squeeze all of the air out and twist it. Now, by doing this and wrapping it, putting it to the side, what you're gonna do is you're gonna repeat this process with all of those chicken breast fillets, and you're gonna pop it in your refrigerator for at least, you guys, 2 hours. What's gonna happen is the chicken breast is gonna seize up, and then it's going to retain this shape. So it'll make it so much easier. You won't have to worry about it falling apart. Now, granted, yes, we're still going to use toothpicks and all of that, but trust me, it'll definitely save you the headache because you'll see in a second, once I unwrap them, I'll be able to sit them down and they won't unfold. And that's because that chicken breast has had it's had some time to kind of seize up a bit and it's gotten nice and tight. So once you have that done and you've taken it out, I would say use anywhere between, 3 to 4 toothpicks. It kind of just depends on how big your chicken breasts are or, how much you've rolled it out. But 4 for sure, you should be good to go. And you want to make sure that they are as close to the top as possible. That way you can evenly lay it down. So what we have up at the top is our dressing station. So I'm going to work from our left to our right. So what I have is my homegirl, Soulful Tea. That is her seasoned flour. Now, if you guys would like to order some of her seasoned flour, make sure you guys head on over to Soulful Tea's channel and go down in her description box. She'll always have the link available for you guys to purchase her flour. If money is tight because it's the holiday season, or if you guys just aren't interested in purchasing it, what you would do is just get yourself some regular flour, and then you're going to just put salt and pepper in just the flour. Then in the middle, what we have is about 4 to 5 large eggs that have been nicely whipped. And then on the far right, we have our breadcrumbs. Now, just so you know, those are non-seasoned breadcrumbs. And the reason why I chose non-seasoned is because I want to season it myself. Now, although typically when you're using Soulful Tea's seasoned flour, you don't have to add any extra seasonings to it. And trust me, y'all, that is 100% the truth, because when I did the fried turkey video with her, we used just the flour and it turned out fabulous. However, with this chicken cordon bleu, because you're using chicken breasts and because you're going to have an egg coating and you're going to have the breadcrumbs and all of that, you want to make sure you're adding some additional flavor. So to your breadcrumbs, I would add 1 tablespoon of seasonal salt, a half a tablespoon of onion powder, a half a tablespoon of garlic powder, and about 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper, just to give a little bit of additional seasoning. Be mindful, of course, your cheese is going to have some salt in it. The ham is going to have some salt in it. But you guys know chicken breast can be a very bland cut of meat. So I went from the flour into the egg dredge, and now I'm just covering in our breadcrumbs. And the good thing about it is, you guys, this is a really, really easy recipe to make. It seems like something so fancy, but it truly is not at all. And it will surely wow your loved ones. So once you guys get all of these nicely coated, I would suggest for you to just put it on a plate and let it set for about at least 20 minutes. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when you're working with breadcrumbs, they tend to want to just fall off the second you put them in the oil. And that can really become a nuisance, and it can also ruin your cooking oil. So by letting it sit for a minute, it'll really allow those breadcrumbs to adhere to the egg and the flour and all that. And then it won't make your, your oil as messy. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this process, and I will talk to you guys when we get to the next step. Alrighty, you guys, so I've let those sit for about a half hour. Let's get to cooking. So what I have is about, let's say about maybe 1 cup of vegetable oil. It kind of depends on how deep your pan is. And I've added about 2 tablespoons of butter. So what I'm going to do is all you're trying to do right now, you guys, is just simply brown off your chicken cordon bleu. You are not trying to fully cook it. You are just simply browning it off. Now you want to make sure you have your oven preheated at 375 degrees because everything from this point on is going to be moving very, very quickly. So don't flip it around. Don't go moving it around. Let it sit on one side, you guys, for about at least 3 to 4 minutes. You know your pans and you know your stovetop better than me, but just, you don't want to go messing with it, because then it won't get that beautiful brown color like you see right now on the screen. So allow it to have that time to really brown on each side. And like I said, this is not fully cooked. You're not trying to fully cook it. So don't let it sit in that grease for too long, because then you're just going to end up drying it out. You're just trying to brown it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to transfer it over to a sheet rack. Now, if you have a cookie rack or something, you want to make sure that it's elevated off of the baking dish, because what you don't want to happen is for those breadcrumbs and the flour to get soggy at the bottom. So you want to make sure that air is able to circulate under that chicken cordon bleu. So I have a little roasting pan, and that's what I used. I baked it off at 375 for about 45 minutes, you guys, and it turned out fabulous. Oh my God. It was so juicy. And I mean, it was absolutely divine. Look, you guys, this is something that's so easy that once again, you can show off to all of your friends, honey, and just have a ball. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, y'all stay cute and take care. Bye, guys.
Simply Food by TY.